Thank you, everybody. This afternoon's briefing, joined by Committee on Energy, Economic Development and Tourism, and Committee on Economic Development on the House and Senate for Monday, April 8, 2024, 2 p.m. in Conference Room 016, and on video conference as well. Like to thank the committee, joint committees for joining us, as well as you guys are doing the presentation for Economic Recovery Commission. And we'll just let you guys go ahead and start because I know people got stuff to do as well. Chair, you want to say anything?
No, thank you guys for being here and take it away.
Thank you. Chair Decoit, Chair Holt, Senate President, Representative Quinlan, Poipoi, and Miyake. Thank you for being here. We just wanted to do an update on the Maui Economic Recovery Commission, what the status is, what we've been doing, especially for the Maui delegation. We wanted to make sure that you knew which community members are part of this and what's been happening. So we'll start with the first slide. And when you see the graphic, Aloha Mai e Maui, ERC, this is a graphic designed by I'm not exactly sure what her title is, but she's an artist scribe. So as we're talking in the first meeting on January 5th, she was drawing all of this, and this is exactly the drawings that she made during the commission meeting. So we wanted to just thank you all for this opportunity today. The vision of this commission is to keep, the vision is to keep local people home, steer hope, rebuild our economy so local people can return home. That was a theme that was mentioned at the first ERC on January 5th at the Maui University. Governor Green, as well as Senator Decoit and Mayor Bisson was there, and that was, the theme. We wanted to make sure that people certainly knew what was happening as far as trying to bring the economy back to Maui. And so the ERC, there's a lot of moving parts. We have 6 different committees, and I'll go into that later. But the next slide, please. As these words come up on the slide, the bigger the words are, the 100 members that were at that first commission meeting, each and every one of them wrote down 5 words that they felt was important. So the words that came up in the big print, that's the words that came up most on the words that they put up. And then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But those are the lead themes that we're going by as we move forward with this commission. The ERC is rooted on Maui with members' values. So as EBED, we had discussions about what was important, and we knew, especially from myself coming from the neighbor island and this being on Maui, that was very, very important. So the Maui community, especially in Lahaina and West Maui, knew that it was a commission focused on people from the community, and it wasn't Oahu driven. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, on the Zoom call, we have commission members, and we also have the co-chair. Co-chair Mahi, is Luana? Yeah, so why don't I also start with that? So the commission members that are on the Zoom right now, as you can see on the screen, is Peter Merriman. I think all 3 of them on there need no introduction. Amy Hanaiali Igilium. Hi, Amy. And Debbie Kabibi with MEO.
Aloha.
Is Luana? I can't see on the screen if Luana's on there. I'm pretty sure.
Aloha.
And this is co-chair Luana Mahi. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna split up the slides. I'll do the first 10, and then Economic Development Chair Mahi will do the second 10. Okay, so we talked about the values, and as you saw from the screen, the words that come up there were the words that most describe what people at the commission thought was important as this process goes through. So we've collaborated with economic development from the federal level. Kyoki Noji, I think he's also on the Zoom. Kyoki, are you on there? You want to wave to everyone? Okay, sorry, guess he's not on now. He did have another earlier meeting, and that's why he couldn't be here in person. But what the steps are for the framework is the NDRF, which was the debris removal, mitigation assessments. As I'm going through the slide, I think you folks have the slides. Interim infrastructure for business reopening, housing, debris, infrastructure, business, emotional, psychological support, public health and healthcare, mitigation activities. The RSFs, we tied it closely into the federal RFFs because we are getting support from the federal government, and we wanted to make sure that what we ties in with the county and the federal government. So all three agencies are not working separately in silos. We felt it was very, very important for the federal government, the state government, and the county government to be on the same page. So every step of the way, from the Maui standpoint, Co-Chair Mahi has been a part of the dialogue and the discussion. Next slide, Macy. Okay, so the 7 building principles are laid out here. Community-led is most important, government-supported, individuals and for families, leadership local, engaged partners and inclusiveness, unity of effort, everyone on the same page as much as possible. And I'm not gonna say that during the learning groups, people have had opinions about what they think it should be, but right now, all of this is the gathering stage. So there is no right answer or wrong answer. This is community input, and we wanted to make sure that community members felt like whatever was discussed in the learning groups, and there's 6 separate groups. They meet once every other week via Zoom. Some committees have, some learning groups have more members than others, but basically it's there for them to share their concerns and share their input. And when the ERC from the state side is completed, the report will be done, collaborated by our Office of Planning with Mary Alice's office, and a report will be put together, and that report will be given over to Maui County, where the WANA and the County Council and the Mayor's team will advance the infrastructure that has been set up by this ERC. Economic Development Chair Mahi and I met with the Mayor 2 weeks ago, and the Mayor has given his full support, as he has from the beginning. Take this information and report and continue to use it in their planning process. Because as we all know, a lot of times reports get done and they end up on the shelf. But this is a living, growing report. The website, we'll talk about that later. The website is in place, and it's a pretty awesome website made by a Maui developer, the Nishikawa family, Chair Economic Development Director.
Yeah, Lynn Nishikawa and Associates.
Yeah. So the website is listed in your handout, and if you ever do have a chance to look at it, it is pretty awesome. Okay, next slide. The ERC timeline. So January 5th was our first meeting. Again, we had approximately 100 members there. It was important, like I mentioned earlier, for us to have most of the people from Maui, but as you can tell from, as you would know, from union leaders in the trades, because that's going to be a big part of workforce development moving forward for the, the masons, the plumbers, the electricians, the carpenters. for everyone to be training people to work there. So they have a working group, a learning group. Housing, and I know Chair Mahi is going to go into some of those groups, but it's extremely important that they're connected with all of the different government agencies so that we can give them the support that we need for the different agencies. So between January and May, the learning groups meet every other week via Zoom, and it's normally on a Friday. And so we've had 10 different meetings with the different learning groups. Some learning groups are bigger than, like I said, some learning groups are bigger than the others. And the participation in the groups that I've seen are really passionate and very, a lot of these guys are, presidents of banks, presidents of nonprofits that spend a lot of time on these working groups. So, we wanted to make sure that this lives and grows. So that's a big part of it. Very, very, people who weren't able to help physically during the wildfires are spending their time with these learning groups because it's important. You have people like Bob Harrison, who in last week's learning group was talking about the different support that maybe renters and homeowners can get via the different grants and support that are there from the federal government for housing. And so just a wealth of information, and we're very appreciative that all of these people are connected to the learning groups. In May, on May 14th, will be the next in-person total group, which will be held in Lahaina. The site, the date is May 14th. The site is still, and correct me if I'm wrong, Executive Director Mahi, the date,
The Lahaina Civic Center.
Okay, so that was secured. Okay, it's the Lahaina Civic Center on May 14th. And on that day, some of the groups will have a tour from FEMA that will take them down into the burn area. A lot of the members have not seen it, and how it is, as the Maui people, of course, will know, looks a lot different now than it did after the fire. Okay, so in August will be the last state facilitated meeting. August, I'm not sure we have the August 26th. On August 26th, we will have the last state facilitated Economic Recovery Commission meeting. And at that point, Mary Alice and her team will put together the report, hand it over to Luana Mahi and the mayor's office, and they will take it from there. So, next slide, please. So the next slide, if you look at it, you can see at this point, there's probably like 100 members in here. And, from some of the pictures that you can see, a lot of the trade unions are in there. There were 2 council members that were there, Lukile Sugimura and Councilmember Ui. Peter Ho's in there, Ray Vera is part of the group. There's a list of all of the group members that we handed out, so you can take a look at that. There's also a list of people who have been presenters that you folks can take a look at. And, it's just been truly impressive how engaged all of the members have been. It's a very, very diverse group of people, cultural practitioners. We wanted to make sure.
So in regards to the list, can the list be added to, or?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted clarification.
Yes, and what's happening too, since people signed up to be on, their schedules are busy, so as people drop off, people will be added on, yes. And certainly when Maui County takes over the commission, then, they may have different people that they want to put on. And in fact, Executive Director Mahi has been very instrumental in putting names onto the list. So that's the first part of the presentation. So I'd like to Chair, would you like us to go through the whole presentation and then do Q&A, or how do you want to do that?
Yeah, and then if anybody get questions, they can hold their questions to later.
Okay.
Yeah. But you can make like this now on funeral and like kind of like make it look a little more exciting. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Luana, you heard that.
Okay. So if you guys want it more exciting, then I'll just ask Amy if she wants to go ahead and sing right now. No, I'm kidding. It's fine. Thank you. Well, thank you again for this opportunity to present our work on the Maui Economic Recovery Commission. I'm also grateful to the members of the commission that has, you know, sacrificed their time and efforts to come together January 5th as well as every other Friday. We all know everybody's really busy, lots of meetings happening. So having all of these people come together to help us has been really inspiring, and we're so grateful. We're working together in ways that allows the listening and learning from each other and our local communities. And we just released the Maui Business Health Check survey last Friday, and it revealed that 43.8% of the nearly 300 businesses that responded said that their financial state was in critical or on life support conditions. So we know that we need to collectively invest in our island's economic recovery. We also have a link that you can see on the Maui Nui Strong.info website for the entire report of the Maui Business Health Check, as well as information. If you do mauinuistrong.info/Maui ERC, you'll be able to see where a lot of these slides that we're showing you comes from, as well as a complete list of the commission members. In regards to this slide on page 11, the ERC identified 6 priority areas for learning, and this is modeled after FEMA's framework. So housing, workforce development, community interests, healing, Lele Ahupua'a, which is our modern day Ahupua'a system approach, and why. Each of these learning groups have been meeting every other Friday on Zoom, like Director Tokioka mentioned. Next slide, please. The learning phase emphasized foundations and focus. Each learning group session included time for members to connect around relevant prompts, and they developed their learning group description, grounding etiquette, how they are agreed to be with each other, even when there might be disagreements, and high-level learning goals. And there are examples from the housing learning group that is on the screen. Next slide. To bring focus, each session introduced a layer or approach to learning with the goal of deep listening, thinking outside of the box, and being aware of going back to what we think we know. The purpose of this is to generate expansive ideas for Maui and collaborative projects that leverage federal funding and support for Maui. ERC members have had the opportunity to meet with, learn from, and dialogue with a list of extraordinary speakers. These include on-the-ground case managers, county leads, cultural practitioners, academic and policy experts, fellow ERC members, and community leaders. All the speaker sessions are available to ERC members on their online member portal, which makes it easy to listen, learn, and make connections when playing the recordings. The first round of learning group speakers took members outside of what they might have expected to open up possibilities. The second round introduced new ways of approaching their learning area, and the third round shared real-life examples of their area and other communities. I also wanted to thank those of the County of Maui recovery support function leads. As you know, they're made up of directors or deputy directors from our County of Maui staff. And I think it's everybody knows that we're really short staffed. So for these directors and deputy directors to step forward and take on another Kuleana as an RSF lead means a lot of hours for everyone. And so I'm thankful that they also participated in these learning groups, because they're very important to include in the discussions that we have within the commission as well as into the community. So as Director Tokioka mentioned on this slide, in April, we've been still coordinating and collaborating, learning and listening from each other, and beginning to develop project ideas, introduction to potential funding sources, and just putting together a potential action plan. And that will take us to our May 14th meeting, which will be held at the Lahaina Civic Center. And this next slide is a visual of what the members portal looks like on the website, mauinuistrong.info. Next slide, please. These are the learning groups that we've mentioned. Actually, one of the learning groups empowered themselves and changed their learning group name, and also schedules their own learning group meetings too. So that was great. Next slide, please. And these are some of the resources that have been included in the Economic Recovery Commission section of the website that includes the West Maui Community Plan, which is also very important for us to make sure that we integrate that into our learning so that we can use that in our action plan going forward. Next slide. Just a reminder of our upcoming dates. August 26th, we have not settled on a place yet. And I believe the last slide. And then if you need to contact us, we have these wonderful facilitators that help us. Rachel Wong and her team has been amazing to work with. Thank you. And we'll be hearing from some of our members of our ERC team. So Debbie Habibi from Maui Economic Opportunity, thank you for being with us today.
Aloha. Thank you for the opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I have a headset and it's new, so I'm still trying to get used to it. Good afternoon, President Kochi, committee chairs, Senator DeCoit, Representative Holt, and committee members. I'm Debbie Kabibi, the Chief Executive Officer for MEO, Maui Economic Opportunity. We're a 58-year-old nonprofit community action agency. We help stabilize individuals and families year-round. Last year, we helped over 20,200 people. And since the wildfires, we've helped thousands and thousands of households and individuals stabilize by providing direct services with funding provided by the state, the county, private foundations, donors, you name it. And so when the opportunity arose to be a partner and to help with this Economic Recovery Commission, it seemed like a very good fit. It was definitely in alignment with our mission of strengthening the community and helping people in need. And as a member of the Housing Learning Group, a natural inclination was to dive into planning for more housing. And we recognize that the focus is on economic development, and housing is key to recovery. I know through all the thousands and thousands of people that we help every day, even without a disaster, housing is critical, as is childcare. And because we have such a labor shortage, if we want to overcome some of the economic challenges, we're going to have to figure out how to tackle both of those issues along with everything else. I think as we go through the learning sessions, though, we realize that the answers are more complex than what we probably thought going into it. We look forward to the next phase of economic recovery as we take our learning, our diverse experience and expertise, and work with partners to integrate housing into economic recovery for Maui County. but we cannot do it alone. So we do need the support of the federal, state, and county governments, businesses, foundations, community members. More pressing is creating midterm housing solutions to move individuals and families out of the hotels. It's not a good situation. And I was listening, just reading the paper with the Ohana Hope Village. And I know it's not, a dream project, but it's going to help get people into a more stable midterm solution. So if we can think outside the box, work collaboratively on efforts like that, I think that will help us in the long term. Because I think the reality is permanent housing is going to take a lot longer than we maybe anticipated. So we have to figure out some more midterm solutions that are going to stabilize us to get us to the next level. The MEO board and staff are committed to do whatever we can to make this happen. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with all of you today.
Thank you, Debbie. Peter Merriman.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. And I'm going to say how fortunate I feel to be part of this Maui Economic Recovery Group. It's one of the first things I want to say is I don't know who put the group together, but whoever put the group together did a fantastic job, because it's a really diverse group of people and there's a lot of different opinions coming from all over the place. And so they were really pretty spread out in the beginning, and they're starting to get a little more parallel now as we work through the process. And for me, I think one of the really interesting thing is this is like a prediction. It's not really what's happening, but my own personal opinion, does not representing official opinion, is it looks like in the end everybody's going to coalesce around something like restoring Moku'ula and bringing the Hawaiian culture integrated back into the tourist industry that's there. Almost everybody in the group that was there feels like the amount of tourism on Maui just prior to the fire was possibly a touch too much. There might be an opportunity to reset tourism, to work more closely with the culture, and both the culture and the tourism industry can benefit from this. So I think it'd be a really enriched and unique tourist experience if West Maui had an experience based on indigenous people, and it would be one of the few places in the world that had something like that, in addition to all our great beaches and so forth. I think that if that's true, if my prediction there is correct, the challenge is going to be how do we get to that point, because all the different disagreements are showing up already on what is the best way to get to that place that I just referred to. And that's where we came up with the idea of the Ahupua'a system. And we had a Lele because we learned during this process that Lele was a name of the Lahaina area prior to contact. So we thought that was pretty cool. And also I think the idea of how and what an Ahupua'a did, which was to manage resources in a sustainable fashion, is really, really important concept here, because we had a discussion last Friday in our learning group about what happened to water before and during the plantation era and what's happening with water now. And it really became down to a question of, like, there's so many things you can do with water, but what should you do with water? And that's where the decisions will have to be made. And I think this setting up our systems, which is what this Maui Economic Recovery Group is doing, is so vital to do that. Many years ago, back in the 90s, I was part of a group of people, chefs around the state, that we wanted to see agriculture move from an export model to a domestic consumption model, so to support ag in the state of Hawaii. And everybody was in favor of it, but everybody had a different way of achieving it. So it's the systems and how you communicate. And we found success in that particular case. I mean, think of it. You got all these chefs, they all got an opinion. And then you got a whole bunch of different farmers, and then you got all these different islands, right? So how do you get that kind of agreement? And the only way we got agreement actually was to travel around to, with CTAR, we traveled to each of the islands and talked to the farmers and chefs at the same time. And I think that's what's going on right now with the Maui Economic Recovery Group, is that we're doing that discussion. I feel like we're really making progress. And I think that's about it. I'm really looking forward to where we're going to get from here. I personally, as a owner of businesses in the tourism sector, I am so excited about the possibility of an enhanced tourist experience, which might have a few less people coming here, possibly spending more per visit, each one, high yield tourists, I like to call them, and have an opportunity to integrate with the Hawaiian culture. So thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you, Peter. Amy Hanaiali'i.
Hi, aloha everyone. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I have to say that this commission has been one of the biggest learning experiences I've had in a very long time. We have everyone on my healing committee, from president of TS Restaurants, president of HECO, head of the health systems. We have met with firsthand mental health practitioners that are helping people on the ground, with folks that don't speak English. They speak Filipino, they speak Micronesian, and trying to get through, that trauma of trying to express themselves. I am the president of Huiawa Kaulua. We've been down at 525 Front Street, Kamehameha Iki Park, for 50 years. My oldest brother is the kapena, or the builder of the canoe. We are part of Moku'ula, and I agree with Peter that I think it's vitally important in this time period now, with regard to tourism, that we share an authentic experience, that we integrate them into our culture. And I think that water is so vitally important right now. Water is returning to Moku'ula for the first time in a very, very long time. That's a lot of generational trauma, not just trauma now, but all of our kupuna in the past that have been traumatized by all of that. And so I just think that with this commission is so strong and so vitally important, along with the businesses that are completely understanding everything about our culture right now, that we could definitely set a precedence for the rest of Hawaii. And I think Lahaina is at a point where they are going to make strides with proving that. And I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Amy. I just wanted
Thank
to
you.
I just wanted to add something that because Peter and Amy had touched on it with our visitor industry, about a month or so ago, Mayor Bisson and I met with the general managers of a lot of the hotels and resorts out in Ka'anapali. And one of the things that the mayor said to them that stuck out to me is that we keep talking about educating our visitors, but I think one of the things, the key components, is that we need to tell them that they are not visitors, they are our guests. And when they come as a guest to, or when you have a guest into your home, they possibly act a different way than they would then as a visitor or as a tourist. So if we can keep that top of mind when we are moving forward in, offering funds to our tourism industry, is to help them educate our guests in coming to our home. Thank you.
Director, would you like Kyoki to say a few words? I know he's on there now.
So, Kyoki, we introduced you earlier. I'm not sure you were on the line, but we see you on there now. You want to introduce yourself and say a few words?
Yes, apologies for the technical difficulties earlier. I was having trouble with my audio. I hope everybody can hear me okay. But no, don't want to take up too much of everybody's time, but just wanted to say mahalo again for the opportunity to participate today. Again, my name is Kyoki Noji. I am the Economic Development Representative, or EDR, for the Economic Development Administration's Pacific Region. Mahalo also to Director Tokioka and Director Mahi for inviting the EDA to participate in the Maui Economic Recovery Commission. I truly appreciate the thoughtful and community-driven approach that the Maui ERC has utilized and continues to utilize in coming together to support economic recovery on Maui following the devastating fires. I think the only other thing I would add is in terms of alignment, the current phase that the Maui ERC is in aligns really nicely with the federal level economic recovery support function. The Maui ERC is moving squarely into the project identification phase of the process, which the Federal Economic Recovery RSF is also strongly emphasizing on our part. So we're hoping that, you know, moving forward in the pretty near term, similar or identical projects identified at the county, state, and federal levels can then be highlighted as overall priorities.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair. I just wanted to answer Peter Merriman's question. It was the governor who said, Jimmy, we need to do something on Maui, put a group together. We never knew it was going to turn out this big and collaborate this much with all of the different people that are on there now. But it's turned out to be a great, great experience so far. And we will continue to stay on it till, you know, it's over, because it's going to be years. It's going to be years, as you all know, for the recovery and rebuild of Lahaina and West Maui. So we will be there till the end. So we'll open it up for questions.
So thank you, Director. Of course, I want to also let the committees know that, you know, from day one, I'd like to thank you, Director. You have taken a stronghold from the beginning of August 8, when this first started, on the countless days and nights and long hours. And Luana, much mahalo to you and your group that have brought together many of those that have been involved from day one. Again, the first question that I brought up was, as long as the committee that you have with ERC allows for those to continue to be added on, so that Lahaina does have a voice, as well as the rest of the island. I commend you on all the work and your sleepless nights, as well as the mayor and his team. Also, I would like to recognize Senate President. I know you have another meeting to go to, so before I open up to the rest of the committee, if you have any comments or questions before you have to leave, Senate President.
Oh, you know, really appreciate your efforts. For us, Senator McKelvey suffered tremendous immediate loss and had, you know, himself first to take care of. So you had committed a lot of time, and former Senator Agaran, to inform the Senate. And, you know, as Senator McKelvey was better able to engage, you know, we've relied on the reports from our team on Maui now, adding Senator Hashimoto. I feel we've gotten good feedback as far as Director Tokioka, Deputy Director Wicker. I did have the opportunity to go to the convention center on several occasions. I was just thoroughly impressed by the collaboration and teamwork that was occurring there to, you know, get people out of the shelters and into better accommodations. Now we're in the phase of trying to get them into the next step of housing. And so I await, you know, what's going to occur. I would say that I don't have anything in my vast years of experience that would have prepared me for the challenges we've been facing in Lahaina. First, just the slow, respectful process to go through the ash to identify remains of loved ones that were lost. And then the process of determining toxicity of the material. And now trying to find out where is the appropriate place to place the material, which has been an impediment to allowing people to rebuild. All of the other instances, whether hurricanes, Tropical Storm Isela, the Big Island, the lava, we've been able to quickly identify how to rebuild in areas or identify where we can relocate, but to go back into the Lahaina area where people grew up and would like to be has proven to be incredibly challenging. And so I am committed, like the rest of the members of the Senate, to work with our Maui delegation to assist the residents of Maui. And then, certainly our House colleagues, we've all collaborated in many different ways to assist, whether with food, with clothing, and other items. And I appreciate the efforts that all of the legislators and our staff have brought to try and render assistance.
Thank you, Senator Purse. Before we get started, also I'd like to extend out, thank you to my co-chair, Representative Holt. When everything first went down, we did make a visit ourselves on behalf of economic development and the tourism side. We did go into the zone, met with the business owners. At that point, the discussion that the both of us had at that time was we wanted to make sure after the people were taken care of first, that the businesses that also helped to take care of them had questions themselves. We then decided to put together a group of legislators that could answer questions that we could not, as well as the department heads. No insult to what was going on, but the invite that was brought to us by LSC, the Lahaina Action Committee, I believe in, Co-Chair, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We went in there because they had questions they wanted answered, all the while trying to build the businesses and what we now came to the Economic Recovery Commission, spearheaded by Director Tokioka, directed by the governor as well as by the mayor. So we know there were many questions. There'll continue to be many more questions. And again, to the people of Lahaina, as well as the senator from Lahaina, as well as the representative from Lahaina. We know there's a lot of questions. So I will turn to my co-chair first before we open it up to everybody else, if you'd like to make a statement prior to the questions going out. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, Senator DeCoit. And I just want to thank everybody here on Zoom and in person. I know it's been a tough, long road, and we're still just in the beginning. So I thank you guys for all the work that's put in. I can tell by the amount of people participating in these groups. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of interest in making sure we build back and build back correctly. So thank you guys so much. And I look forward to continue to help out however we can here. And appreciate all the work that you guys are doing.
Thank you. So let's do this. Let's take, we'll go one question on the House, one on the Senate first. So if anybody from the House has any questions first, we can do that, and if that's okay with everybody.
And thank you everyone for your efforts, and a huge laundry list of participants, which is wonderful from across the board. So I mean, at this point, I think I'm really looking forward to what transpires with all the voices and collaboration between all the entities here. There are other entities that aren't listed here that I know have strong voices and representation in the community, which I do see whenever I go back home into the zone and beyond. So I'd like an opportunity to share some of those thoughts, concerns, and questions and things of that nature. So I'd like to just have some doors open and collaboration on that behalf too. But again, appreciate your folks' efforts at this time. Mahalo. No question.
Thank you. Senator McKelvey.
Oh, okay. But I could have a long list of questions, but I just want to echo what my colleague said. I hope that this is a huge group with a lot of voices and entities, and I hope that there's an aggressive move. I know outreach has been made to different West Maui groups that haven't been perhaps included. I would hope that more will continue. I hope that perhaps there'll be some kind of attrition or scaling to where the voices from the community do have some kind of a higher echo above all the other voices from across the way. But I guess my whole thing has always been about Jimmy. I mean, this hasn't been a rewarding experience, no offense for us, for me. This has been hell on earth, okay? Imminency, the Economic Recovery Task Force, the work it's doing is huge, but there's also a huge imminent component. Like you just said in the survey, it was said earlier, businesses are basically dying on the vine right now from no funding. So what is the game plan and the timetable for meaningful funding? We had the bridge program. It exhausted its resources quickly. We were hoping to fund that. That didn't happen. What is the game plan to give this kind of liquidity to the businesses that are there? And perhaps also many of them are still going with PPP loans from COVID, SBA loans. Many of them have been denied. They don't have the assets. That begins the question, what kind of businesses are going to come in? What can be done now, imminently, immediately, to give them a lifeline so that they can plan on? And I think for the county too, it goes to the permitting and the planning. Are they going to be able to expeditiously move to rebuild in the business district, and how in the time frame of debris removal with the residentials is that going to occur? And then when will there be a temporary, if you will, Front Street or market diversification? So these are the kinds of things people anxiously ask me every day. You know, these are the concrete things that, so I guess to the committee, to the groups, do you have any answers on these things so that the businesses that are there that constantly ask us these things can have some kind of answers?
Yes. Well, we can't answer every single part of that question, but there are some things, and I know Executive Director Mahi has been working on pop-ups in Lahaina and around West Maui, and some of the hotels on the West Maui area have opened up their areas to that option, not trying to be selfish where, you know, the economic development, where if it was food trucks or the likes like that would interrupt their business, they've been open to that. I know that was a discussion, and Director Mahi, do you have any updates on those pop-ups?
Yeah, so Lahaina Town Action Committee recently had a pop-up at the Sheraton Resort. We have another pop-up that actually is happening out of state, taking some Maui businesses to New York City. One of the problems that we've been having is securing a commercial space on the west side, where we wanted to create a marketplace situation and a couple of different situations. So we have property owners or commercial property management companies that are not responding to our requests. I've been having somebody from my office call out every day since October. And they have increased the cost of leasing by 300% since August 7th, which has made it very prohibitive for businesses to find new spaces to move into. We do have,
Nodding. Sorry.
I'm sorry?
No, I've been cut them off. I see people nodding, and these are the kind of the core things that I guess your expertise of the group should hopefully really focus in on. I mean, because they got crisis level stuff, and then we have the stuff that the group's engaging in. And I guess what my hope and plea today to you and everybody is to really put front burner, because it was probably yesterday, but front burner immediately these things up. To my good friend's point, I think we're talking more than pop-ups, like the permanent. What's the plan for the permanent business rebuild in Lahaina? Is that something the group's working on? How into the details are you getting? And then, of course, the issue of Front Street.
Right. So I've recently been involved in meetings with the Front Street Recovery Group, which is made up of property owners from Front Street or Lahaina Town, and just listening and hearing from them and they're asking the same questions. How can we get in there to rebuild? There's a lot of different things that needs to happen in that area first. So we are keeping them apprised of things that are happening in the way of infrastructure, water, wastewater, all of those components that will be needed before anything can be done in that area.
Senator, so part of your question is the planning, permitting, and the redevelopment of Lahaina. And that's not something that this group is coordinating, because that's purely all Maui and their agency. So I wish we could answer those questions, but that's not our space. So until that happens, it's going to be hard to know what we can, the setback, Front Street, are those buildings gonna be allowed on the water? My guess is no, but that's not us to answer. And so I know the mayor and his team is going through all of that right now, but that would be for them to decide what's gonna happen.
No, I completely respect that, and I totally understand. Has to be purely community driven, but I guess the time for the conversations, beginning is kind of now. But I guess my more impetus for me was the imminency things that we discussed about. There's these things that you can report back to the legislature on, and so far as trying to provide these lifeline things for businesses.
Okay, so MEO, right from the beginning, the 12.5 million, and I know when you talk about 12.5 million for business, it's not even a Band-Aid. But we have fortunate to have Debbie on the call, and she's been distributing those grants, but we wanted to make sure with the money that came from the state, that it stayed in Hawaii, because if we didn't put restrictions on it, people could take that money and move someplace else, and that was the last thing we wanted to have happen. So Debbie, do you have an update of that money and other philanthropic monies that you may have received from at MEO? And I know I didn't ask you this question before we got on, but I know you're very well prepared because I saw some of the reports that you.
No pressure.
No, thank you for the question. I looked at the last report, so it's a shared effort between Maui Economic Development Board and MEO for the bridge grants, and they were doing grants over 350 or 300,000 and businesses below as ours. So we have grants as small as $1,000 up to 20,000 or 10,000. So right now between the two agencies, there's been about 8.4 of the 12.5 awarded, with 740 awards, and there's many more still being processed, but it does take a little bit of time because there is some record keeping that has to be done because of the origin of the funds. So we do expect to get all of that out. And then we also still have some county grants that we received from Councilmember Tasha Kama to do community grants for startup businesses, not necessarily all impacted by the fire, but some of them. And then also we have our regular agriculture grants that we've been administering. Thank you.
And then, Chair,
Go ahead, just,
the
Senate
last
President.
thing before I have to go, I think that's been part of the challenge from the start. For a lot of those affected in Lahaina, it has been an emotional response, understandably. And it would be difficult to inject logic, reason, fact, conversation to people who have suffered such emotional tragedy. But there is a process to having permits go through the system. And there is a process as to rebuild. And so for those of us who were trying to move faster, the message came back quite clearly: we're not emotionally ready to do this yet. We are still grieving, and could you respect us? I think, we're now here understanding that it is time to go forward. So it's my hope that we're in a more unified position in how we're responding so that we can be confident that we are respectful to what the people on Maui are now prepared to start seeing occur. But some of the problems described by Senator McKelvey are now real problems on the ground. And, so whatever I can do to assist you, Senator, or the Director and Deputy, I'm happy to work with the chair to get that done.
Thank you, Senator President. I'd like to elaborate more on that. And Debbie, thank you for what you've done. So the ripple effect of MEO has also to outreach those not just impacted directly as businesses, but the outreach, because I know even with Upcountry Maui, the farms there, your grants program has not just expanded there because the impacts has also hit the businesses on Lanai as well as Molokai, all of which county funds and state funds that have been run through MEO has been dispersed, and has been dispersed fairly to keep a lot of these businesses afloat while we go through this trying time. So I wanted to thank you for that, as well as you, Luana. I know you're in director, and the funds also that the mayor has put behind, as well as the council. I see, Peter, I don't know if you want to add to this. I see your hand up, Peter, if you want to add to this as well.
Well, yeah, I wanted to address Senator McKelvey a little bit, and possibly, Senator, you've seen the same issue I have, which it's a chicken and an egg thing, right? We don't have the people available to open businesses. I opened a new restaurant in February, and I still can't get it staffed properly. So it's, I've been thinking all along, well, we got to get the housing solved, but it sounds like you're seeing different issue than what I'm seeing from my side. So I'm looking for help in that regard too.
Well, no, I mean, they're tied in together. I mean, that's a whole nother, sorry, Chair, I mean, the workforce pipeline, the restoration of the community that, thanks to FEMA, has been dislocated. And as a result, we've lost the workers now that are critical for your business and everybody else's. But now we're tying into, I think, a separate area that the chairs want to discuss. So.
Thank you, Senator. Anyone from the House? Okay. You want to go, Rep Miyake first? Rep Lamasau.
Thank you. I just had a question. I'm hearing all of this conversation, and so I know this is going to be discussed in August, but are you guys already kind of seeing some of like the key elements for this Maui economic recovery framework? And if you can just like share maybe like a summary of what you think is going to come out from this this commission, and then I guess to what Senator McKelvey's point is, like, kind of, are you guys already also foreseeing like what the next steps are going to be like as well?
I defer that to Director Mahi.
Go ahead.
To go.
Luana,
Sorry,
can you
trying to
go ahead?
unmute, yeah. Yeah, so, we know that there is a lot for us to do. Of course, our priority right now is housing and getting all of our residents into, as they're calling it, dignified housing. It's been really difficult in that component too, because we have had housing made available on the central and south side of the island, but a lot of them still work on the west side. Their children go to school on the west side. So moving 20 some odd miles away is not what they want to do. But in regard to businesses, we have several businesses that have reopened on other sides. The liquor department was able to get past a relocation express permit situation when you are relocating outside of Lahaina town where you lost your business and relocated somewhere else. We have one business that have already been able to get their liquor permit authorized pretty quickly. We have 3 or 4 more that are going through that process. And then there's other areas that have welcomed businesses that used to be right in the Lahaina mill area, the smokestack area, that is relocating to the Paia mill area. So where we can help and where we can make connections with these businesses that are looking, we are making those and facilitating those connections so people can open elsewhere. Again, I mentioned the increase in commercial rental spaces has been really difficult. We also I meet regularly with EDA as well as SBA, and SBA has given out 269 businesses business loans for a total of 71 million so far here on Maui. They have also done 357 EIDL loans for 333 million, and home loans. I didn't even know they did home loans, but 1,191 home loans for a total of $193 million that SBA has offered, because as Director Tokyo mentioned, that the 12.5 million was just a Band-Aid for a lot of these businesses. And that was one of the biggest, loudest comments that we received, that very many of them couldn't do a lot with $1,000 or $20,000 for our larger businesses.
Senator, oh, go ahead, Director.
We're not in that stage yet.
I know, yeah. So I just wanted to see if you're kind of seeing that all come together at this point and seeing, if you guys have any.
So what we wanted to make sure we mention as well is that, this is not something that anybody was prepared for. So we don't have all the answers, but you have a lot of questions, and we're open to taking in the questions and working with the groups and giving the groups the questions. So, nothing, if we can't answer all the questions today, we'll certainly make sure that the groups that it's appropriate to go to will
Value it.
yeah. And it's, as you can hear from Peter and Amy, it's community-led.
Yeah, totally.
We don't go in there and say, oh, you got to move it in this direction. It's the community is leading this group. And if there are names of people you want to add, or if there are people that you think we need to meet, you'll see on one of the handouts some of the speakers that have presented at the learning groups. And we certainly are open to having more people do presentations to the groups. So certainly seeking your input. And that's what this actual informational briefing is certainly wanting to cover.
Let me move back. Senator Wakai, you have any questions? Okay, Dr. I'd like to follow up with one other questions. I know two of our speakers talked earlier about water. I noticed there's no representation on this list from anybody about water or a water group. Have you guys looked, Luana, I don't know if you guys looked into that. I know when we had the meeting in Lahaina, there was a speaker that stepped forward at that meeting. Director, if you can correct me. I think, somebody like that is valuable. I think on here, maybe even Amy can probably recommend somebody, but there's a lot of talk about water, and I think you guys need to, maybe even Albert Cochran, you and Senator McKelvey can come up with somebody. I think that is crucial, especially for this ERC. And that's probably just one of the questions. I'll throw it back to the House.
Anybody else have questions?
I have one if no one else.
Sorry, go ahead,
No,
Sean.
please, Ellie, no. You're
Sorry,
fine.
thank you. You found somebody for water? Well, anyways,
Well,
so I
I
was,
can read you, we had presenters from the water groups, and it's Jonathan
sure,
Likeke,
Okay.
Dana Okano, Christine Reynolds, Barry Usagawa, is the Maui Water. They all presented at the group, so they're included.
So
They're not on the list
Yeah.
as members, but they were a part of the learning groups, and they all gave presentations to the groups.
No, that's good, but I'm looking for representation from the district.
Right.
The ask was on your both of your behalfs,
Yeah.
since you guys are from there.
thank you, Chair Decoy. And yes, the Director Tokioka, definitely water. I'm feeling like every issue, and it has direct reference to housing, to businesses, to just rebuilding, recovery, is the water issue, number one and foremost right now. I got a call from Pulelehua. He wants to move forward and do everything possible you want temporary, you want permanent, whatever it is, but yeah, water is the biggest hurdle there. And of course, our temporary housing, two, only temporary infrastructure. I don't know what's going to happen after temporary is over in a couple years or so. We need to get to these lots, which I see daily, ready for laying down a foundation, adding an infrastructure and going vertical. People want to do this now. And they are ready, literally. So I'm wondering how anybody in this group has that type of oversight. I've been speaking to unions, I've been speaking to 31 contractors. People are begging to want to start building, and people want to get that. So an expedited permitting process of some kind, a one-stop shop in West Maui for all these families and businesses would really be crucial right now. I mean, now, not few months down the road, not May, not June, July. It is now, today, yesterday. People are ready. So, but water is key. So I definitely think, I spoke to John Helly, the Director for Board of Water Supply. I'm trying to get through to Department of Water Supply themselves on the county level, because you're right, infrastructure is in the county hands. So, but CWRM is at the top of that food chain. Who needs to reallocate or whatever, designate who can use, who can't, and, allow for wells to be, because anyways, that's a whole other can of worms, but water is definitely crucial. So thank you, Chair DeCoit, for bringing up that point.
I will tell you that one of the groups that I attended, Kaipo Kekona, he's not a water specialist, but his whole focus has been on that group is water, 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 water. So there is that representation, and there's another handout that you should have gotten that has the speakers that have presented to the groups. So we will go back and see who we can include as a member to the learning groups.
By the way,
Thank you, sorry.
I just wanted to add that James Kimo Landgraf, who's our Deputy Director of the County of Maui Water Department, was also a speaker presenter in our learning group.
Awesome. And sorry, Chair DeCoit, if I can. So I did have a talk story with KSBE, Commitment of Schools Bishop Estates. And there's been finally, after many years of discussions with Kauaula, with Kaipo, with Keomoku and people of that area about sharing of water resources, which will now trickle down, literally piping into KSBE lands, which is just next door to Lahaina Luna and above bypass and below bypass. So I think they're really, really crucial to bring to the table right now, because they're very interested in doing housing, yes, but also agriculture, where Kaipo Kekona is located. So water, it's all been designated, and they're ready for building infrastructure and use. So they'd be a good one. Thank you. Thank you.
So we have staff taking notes of all of these questions, so we'll get back to the other questions as well.
Thank you. Representative Quinlan.
I'm really deferring a lot on this issue to my two colleagues from Lahaina and the broader Maui delegation, but I do want to say that anytime government forms a committee or a working group, I get a little nervous. And I think that, to all the members of this committee, please manage expectations. Please don't overpromise. And when you guys do come up with a plan, I hope that it is practical and achievable, because that's what the people of Lahaina ultimately deserve. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Senator McKelvey.
More, just not a question, but I mean, that's what I saw the value of this. Okay, finally the ERC is coming to the legislature now, and hopefully even more in depth to the community. But the things that have been flagged here today, I just want to touch on my colleagues' thing about permitting. I mean, what is really needed by people, everybody chomping at the bit, are now, my good friend, the Ways and Means Chair, the granular specifics, timelines. We have a bill right now, conditional licensing for planning engineers in municipal. You guys should be all behind that, because this is going to allow young people with engineering degrees to go into planning departments like Maui County, which is bereft of them, and do plan review so they can sit and get their license as an engineer. This should be like a top priority push by everybody. But these are the kinds of specifics we desperately need, especially since we're closing the gate on the legislature. And for the housing, the big need is real numbers and timelines. I'm worried, with all due respect to the administration, that these numbers may not be enough. And if we're in a situation where we don't have enough money and everything's put on hold, now you want to talk about managing expectations. There's utilities, these areas that have been identified. What are the timelines for utilities? Will it be permanent? Will it be temporary? How much will it really cost? What about the inventory? Some inventory, I'm sorry, is potentially troublesome. It's already been secured by the state. What is the plan for, and how does it play into the FEMA inventory? These are all the things I think desperately needed by the community and everybody and legislators, in addition to all the hard work that's going on, which is really important and incredible, all the stakeholders, for the fundamental core things that are going to take so much time to do with the community. So I thank you guys for looking into these questions and these things and helping us facilitate these seriously front burner issues.
Any questions? Representative Kaufman.
Thank you, Chair. And so obviously we need to look in the future, but I'm looking at current people in town, that's living. And rents have been raised, people have been kicked out because they can now take advantage of the high rental rates, which were, astronomical to begin with. Also, now I'm hearing businesses, existing business owners can now no longer afford their leases in Emerald Plaza specific. So I'm wondering how the people here in your group are actually looking at the existing people, rentals in housing and in businesses and helping to protect them.
Yeah, so this Economic Recovery Commission is not involved in the housing aspect, but on the lease end, we have, and I don't want to drop this on him, but somebody like Peter, who has been, I'm sure, communicating with restaurateurs. I know Javier from Malas has contacted me with his concerns, and we've connected him as much as we could with the county. But Peter, do you have anything that you want to share on that end with the leases?
Yeah, I've heard nothing. This is the first I've heard about commercial landlords increasing the prices at this juncture. Kind of stunned to hear that. But what's huge for us is we've lost employees whose rental unit did not burn, but have since been evicted so that the landlord could collect the FEMA level of rent from that place. And that's giant for us. But other than that, I have not seen the landlords doing that. I would think that a lot of leases, if they're tight enough, wouldn't allow that. That's a typical thing to stop at least.
Amy, I see your hand up if you want to go next, Amy.
Yeah, thank you. I just had a quick question. Is there any water in Lahaina that's privatized?
Oh, yeah. Peter Martin. Yeah, Peter Martin's one.
Yeah.
And is that holding up any progress in building? I'm sorry.
Oh, we on the kind for the record.
That's a whole other.
I mean, is it owned by
Yes.
city and county
Yes.
water department,
Yes.
or is
Yes.
it all Peter Martin?
There's a mix. There's a mix of, yeah, so. and I
I'm
guess-
just genuinely asking. I don't know. I'm just genuinely asking.
So I guess that's why a lot of the questions have arisen. And then the idea was to really figure out, or at least to brief these committees on what the Economic Recovery Commission will be doing, and then the questions and thoughts that we had going forward on the rebuild. So of course, water, as a list of people that were put here on the list, it was to figure out what would be the process and who could provide the input so that we could process this and move forward. And like Director said earlier, when I asked, I said, can the list be added onto? Because I think as we go through it, we're going to figure out who is really detrimental here,
Right.
as well as, important enough that, we don't build such a huge group, but a group that can cohesively move this forward as fast as possible, with considering the impacts to the future of Lahaina. But I know that, as I said, we would try not to go over like an hour and a half. I wanted to throw it back to this committee as if there are any other questions going forward, more so for, the Maui Nui representatives here. Representative Cochran.
Thank you again. And thank you. So water is in Lahaina town proper, I'd say completely with county right now. And the water mains have been checked on. Now it's a matter of who has existing meters intact. And like you may know, Wyola Church does, the graveyard, Lahaina Baptist, they've gotten water back. It's not potable at this time, but at least, they can still do water the yard and whatever, and flush toilets, whatever. So that's kind of what's happening now. And I think it is for county to check, get it up to the standards to actually, to become potable. But so that and sewer, I know all the infrastructure underground is fine. It's the upper, above ground laterals that tie into the dwellings, homes, businesses that need to be worked on at this time. So it's again in the court of the county. I know they're working on it, but again, I'd definitely like to see that expedited a little more. But And so, yeah, the privatization is more Mauka area, as you mentioned too. It's, the Peter Martins of the world there. And whether they're going to build on behalf of our workforce rather than gated community styles, I can't answer that. But again, I think our best option at this point is to probably just talk with KSBE, because they are very, very interested in doing housing for the people, obviously, and not so much, market rate and things like that. So I think, and they will have water coming online. So just comments, thank you.
Going forward, we know we have access to director and deputy. So even if we have more questions, continue to fire them over as they are also engaged with the ERC. And of course, follow-up question.
It's
Senator
actually just the
McKelvey.
last point, because I think it sounds like we're wrapping up, but I'm going to make an official petition of the whole working group to make workforce housing a core component. You can't have an economy, Jimmy, or economic recovery if you don't have a workforce, if you don't have a pipeline, and this is about planning for the future, right?
Yeah,
For
so-
everybody, this is not just, it's also, it's the triage now, but the future of how do you, and this is where recommendations, both policy and otherwise, should TAT be diverted toward workforce housing in that area? Should certain areas county be prioritized for workforce housing? Should in the burn area, we try to reclaim or mixed use, adaptive reuse some of the properties in there for workforce? So those are all the things that you guys could be so critical in helping to map out. But to me, it's integral. You can't have an economic recovery if you don't have a workforce and a pipeline plan. So I just make that plea, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Can I answer that?
Yeah. Go
That
ahead,
was the
Director.
first thing we did. Uncle George, Peter, Damien, Val, all of the unions was the first people that I reached out to, because we knew whatever happens going forward, they're gonna have to be involved. And they also took a look at what Kuhio Lewis was doing with the debris team, training them in the area of the Maui Mall. And so they're gonna be setting up their own shops for their own apprentices and intern workers. Because we know it's gonna be construction work on Maui for a very, very long time, and they're all in.
And while you're at it, we need a common base starting line up for all these guys, because that'll take away the traffic, which will slow down the debris removal. That's a little subset.
Yeah, so, but to answer your question, they are totally engaged and totally supportive of workforce development and training local people so that they can have the workforce that they need.
But the housing, that's what I'm trying to stress, is the
The
housing.
question of all of the water and is this up on the top of the list? The top of the list from my perspective, from the day the governor and the lieutenant governor called me after the fire, was all housing. So whether it was congregate, non-congregate sheltering, now transitioning over, but we're looking at the cost now of what it costs, and it's astronomical. Should we have done something differently? I don't think the people who didn't have houses would have appreciated us including many of the people that are connected here in the legislature thought we should have done anything different. So there was never any, that's a good choice. They were all not good choices, but we had to make the right decisions to take care of the people of Maui. And was it expensive? Absolutely.
Well, that wasn't my point. My point was, this group is about looking forward. It's about getting all the silos removed so everybody's together. One area where the silos exist is workforce housing, and it's tied to that. So, what happened is appreciated by everybody for the community. But this group here, to me, in my mind, is, okay, how do we break the silos down, especially with the legislature, and how, in front of all of these different entities in the community, we begin the granularity of these things that we're talking about and make sure they're included. That's all.
Thank you, Senator McKelvey. So, from day one, and I think that, which is why we come back to the same thing, even on the rebuild, right? We can ask for all the workforce without water and housing, which have been number one. You can put the housing up, but you don't want the water, you just cannot live there. So I think it goes hand in hand, but this is a working group and a commission that will continue to take the input of the community as well as our input that comes from the legislature and so forth.
Can we ask for one thing, Senator and Representative?
Sure.
If the members can circulate the questions through you too, and then send it to us, and then we'll make sure that we respond to all of the questions that the members have, and making sure that the working groups, or the learning groups, have all of the questions that were asked by this committee, both committees.
Yeah. Co-chair, you want to say a few words before we close? Or does anybody else have anything else to say? Sorry. What? No, Jimmy. Nah. Damn it, nah, go ahead.
Can I ask,
Sorry.
can I ask some of the commission members that were in the loop the whole time to close with comments after they've heard all of the discussion?
Definitely.
Peter and Amy and Debbie. And Executive and Director Mahi to close out, please.
If they can, yeah.
Yeah. Amy, you want to go first?
Amy going first? Is that what you said Amy's gonna do?
Yeah, Amy, can you hear us?
Sorry, now I can't. Time warp.
Okay.
Yes.
You
You want me to go first?
Yeah, please.
Oh, okay. I just
Closing
want to
comment?
mahalo. Okay, I just want to mahalo everyone for having us here today. The commission has been a very interesting experience. I've learned a lot. I do agree with housing is a major priority in businesses to get people up on their feet. But I am happy that the businesses that are in the commission are really embracing culture, and I really appreciate that. That's all.
Thank you.
Peter?
I'll second that. I think that I agree with Senator McKelvey that housing is urgent. Water is an equal concern, but maybe it has a longer horizon until we have to get that solved exactly. And one of my big concerns is that I haven't figured out yet. You may have mentioned it earlier and I couldn't hear properly, but where are the construction workers who build the housing going to live? I think that's something we have to figure out. I don't know what we're going to do about that. Bring a cruise ship in, dock it in line or something. But anyway, thank you. I appreciate your concern, and I'm happy to be a part of this. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Debbie? Closing
Yeah,
comment?
yes. Aloha, everybody. Thank you. I think that the Economic Recovery Commission is going to make an impact. It's just that we're in the learning phase right now, and they call it learning communities. And I know that that's very frustrating for people who've been directly impacted by the disaster, because everything seems to not happen fast enough. And as well intentioned as it is, there are a lot of groups out there, and everybody's trying to tackle the problem. So I think we have to figure out a way to bring all of those groups together to have a collective voice, so that when decisions are made, that we're making sure we're looking at the whole picture. And I've said it for a long time. I've been at MEO, 28 years. And if we don't get our housing situations situated, we're going to lose the future generations, and then we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So whatever we can do to make that happen, I'm in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Co-Chair Mahi?
I just wanted to thank Debbie, Peter, and Amy for participating today and sharing their mana'o. And then, of course, all of you for allowing us to share what the Maui Economic Recovery Commission has been doing. And also for Keoki Noji from EDA. I get to meet with Keoki, our EDA partner, FEMA and SBA weekly. So just having their support as well as we move forward. And I know there's a lot of concerns about permitting, and I want to assure you that the other RSFs that are in charge of that are putting together some steps for expediting permitting process. They are also opening up soon an office at the Lahaina Gateway that will be helping those individuals that are ready to move forward to get those expedited permits going. Thank you.
Thank you. Co-chair, if you would like to say a few words.
Well, again, I just want to thank everybody for participating, acknowledging that there are lots of people working on this, not just the ERC and our group here, but, a lot of the more tough decisions have to be made at the Maui County level. And I think it's great that we're all working together to be ready to, get to work once those decisions are made, and, and lean on our area legislators who are, more on the ground and they see it every day. So I just want to thank you guys for being here, Senator McKelvey and Rep. Cochran, and really being our eyes and ears in this situation. And just want to thank everybody again.
Thank you.
We have one point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, sorry. Sorry, it came to mind, I had discussed it in another committee about like a special improvement district or a special business improvement district, similar to the Waikiki business district, if that was been talked about to, create one maybe in Lahaina town itself at all?
Yes.
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Okay,
There's
very good.
I'm not sure where the legislation is, but HCDA was asked to add another.
That died.
Okay, that died.
That was
then.
the limit. That was the limit.
About county
Yeah.
level CID.
We can have that conversation
it
later.
is.
We can yeah. So,
I'll follow
so
up with that later.
I know we're at the end of the hour, but first of all, I just wanted to thank all of you. Director, thank you. Thank you to the commission, Luana, much mahalo. Our love and aloha to the people of Lahaina, as well as Mayor, as well as my chair, Representative Holt, and your committee, as well as my Senate committee. Thank you, folks. I do know this is a long process. I know as long as we have open dialogue and communication, it'll help. As we move forward, allowing the gathering of the information and the questions going back and forth. We'll continue to gather on our side, if you can, Representative Holt. Turn your questions over to him and myself on the Senate side, and then we can get it over to you folks. Hopefully, we can follow up with another briefing, maybe like next year prior to, no, sooner if we have to, but our doors are always open. So with that being said, thank you, and thank you to the staff that has helped us put this together. Mahalo, and this briefing is adjourned.